Oh boy, do I have a good one for you today, guys. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy the show. I mean, some people are definitely going to enjoy it. Not sure about Dana White, not sure about these UFC Dicky Riders, these UFC puppet cheerleaders. I'm pretty sure that they're not going to enjoy this one. Uh, and actually, I was very surprised. So, before we start the show, again, don't hesitate. Click on that subscribe button and do also um, click on the like. That will be appreciated. We have a good one. We have a good one, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to enjoy this. Basically, this is coming again, like I was saying, after that post-fight interview that Dana White gave yesterday to the media, right, where he went on a rant against this guy that I didn't know was Robin Black, right, for a comment that he did on Francis Ngannou signing in the PFL, right? Now, very interesting enough, to be honest with you guys, I didn't know the guy. So just to move a little bit forward, let's talk about the subject. UFC bullying, insulted for speaking out. Because this is basically what happened. Dana White said Robin Black needs a makeover. Just because the guy wanted to speak out regarding Francis Ngannou uh, signing his contract with the PFL and give his 2 cents about it. Like Dana White gave his 2 cents about that contract yesterday. That actually he said that, oh, he just saw some headlines he doesn't know really about, but he went on and on for about 10 minutes talking about that contract and how the PFL didn't know how to do business, right? So basically saying that this guy is not worth following, and that we didn't pay, he didn't know what he was talking about, and that he should just instead of talking about fighting and the UFC, should concentrate on his makeover, and requesting everybody in the audience if they would be graceful enough, as you know, to provide this guy a good makeover company. I was say, as he was saying. Now, interesting enough, guys. To be honest with you, interesting enough. I didn't know who Robin Black was, right? And basically what it brought me to do is to go on the internet and start searching for what had made Dana White so angry, because he was like really like smoking, and he has his target set on this guy, right? So I just wondered, but how? What in the world does this guy do to fall in disgrace with Dana White, to the point where Dana White was basically bullying this guy and basically intimidating this guy, and kind of basically taking people to cancel him, and that he was telling bullshit and so on and so forth, right? So I went on the internet, and more specifically on Twitter, to try to look and see what this guy did, uh, what he did to make Daddy Dana so angry, right? And guys, I'm telling you this, I totally understood why. Right, so the guy was talking about the contract that Francis Ngannou just signed, right? So congrats to Francis, plus congrats to the PFL. All opinions welcome. Enjoy the hostility, my friends. So let's go. So we're going to understand, and I did understand why Dana White was so angry, because maybe the discussion from, or let's say his opinion regarding the sign off of Francis Ngannou, totally in the opposite direction of the narrative that the UFC is trying to portray, is trying to, expand, or trying to say in the social media. Very interesting, very interesting. So what I suggest we do is, let's listen a little bit to what this guy is saying, because it is really interesting. Not only interesting, but straight to the point, because this is something, I mean, he's saying better than anybody else in a few minutes. In actually 1 minute and 29 seconds, he's saying everything that is needs to be said and to be understood about, first of all, the implication of Francis Ngannou's contract, and also kind of the way the UFC deals and makes business, right, or wants to make business. And the proof is in the pudding, like they say, right? And of course, after this reality check, obviously we've seen Dana White come out strong against this guy. So, okay, 1 minute and 29 seconds. Let's listen to this guy and what he has to say regarding Francis Ngannou's contract.
Francis Ngannou's the scariest UFC heavyweight champion ever, and now he fights for the PFL. This is a big deal for Francis, for the PFL, and for every athlete in the fight business. Big. Yeah, today the PFL gave Francis the money and the influence he deserves when the UFC would not. Truth is, the UFC's brand first model doesn't depend on having the best fighters, only the best marketing. It is not easy to control a fighter like Francis. It's way easier to spend the money and control the messaging instead. Just look in the comments, how many people are amplifying the UFC's words, just start your own promotion if you don't like it. He's afraid to fight John Jones or whatever. These reactions prove their corporate theory that marketing spend is more important than fighter pay. They don't need the best fighters if they can convince enough of us to automatically think they're the best because of a logo. This model works for McDonald's and for Red Bull and for Facebook, and it's working for the UFC too. No hate. Like they like to say, it's their business, they can run it how they want. PFL cannot outspend the UFC in marketing, but they can give fighters like Francis the money and the influence and power they deserve. They can find the best, pay them the best, and prioritize athletes in action over hype and promotion. They can make fighting about fighting. Maybe it'll work. Only time will tell. My friends, martial arts can be about so much more.
Let's stop. I mean, we've seen that was very interesting since the beginning. I wanted to stop like at every second just to give you an example and all that, right? But I just want to come back to the point that he's making here, right, where we need to make fighting about fighting, meaning at the end of the day, give people what fight they want to see regardless of what promotion the guy is in, right? We want the best to fight the best, right? Not the guy who has the most followers, not the guy who brings the most people in the seat because he's got a big mouth and he's able to promote this or that, right? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the essence of the sport, the essence of martial arts, and that's why he's going after that. So let me bring this back a little bit because this is very important. What this guy says is very, very important.
The best and prioritize athletes. PFL cannot outspend the UFC in marketing, but they can give fighters like Francis the money and the influence and power they deserve. They can find the best, pay them the best, and prioritize athletes in action over hype and promotion. They can make fighting about fighting.
Yeah, so you heard, right? Prioritize actually the real talent over the hype. Thank you.
Maybe it'll work. Only time will tell. My friends, martial arts can be about so much more than sizzle and corporate power. It can be about emotion, art, inspiration as well. Martial arts can teach us about life. Congrats, Francis. Congrats, PFL. And thank you for trying to create change. Enjoy the hostilities, my friends. Francis Ngannou.
So there you go, guys. There you go. So this is what we have, and this is the reason why Dana the Shark White was really, really angry. Why he was so pissed, vivid, red, burning, smoking. I mean, he was going guns blazing against poor Robin White, actually asking people to help him find a makeover. That's incredible. It's like people don't have the right now to give a different their opinion and provide another option, another solution to the narrative of the UFC, and that is refreshing. Because when you hear all these Michael Bisping, you hear all these Sean O'Malley, who, by the way, is a perfect example of what we're talking about when we're talking about people that are talking more about like the followers than actually the talent that they possess, right? Those pepper champion guys like John Jones and stuff. Well, I'm not gonna put John Jones on in the same bag though, because I do reckon that the guy's got talent, right? But this is where we're going right now in this era where basically it's not talent anymore that is ruling the business. It's more like the propaganda, the narrative that you're able to bring up, because you know that people basically are puppets. People are gullible. people of followers instead of trying to think by themselves. They want people to think for them, and maybe that's what Dana White understood, right? And that's why he's feeding the people. He's feeding them what narrative, right? So definitely true. That's incredible, and I do understand again why we Dana White was so angry at Robin Black, right? Now, very important what you say. I mean, we need the talent instead of the hype, right? We want to see the best fighter fight the best fighter, regardless of what promotion they're in, right? Because this is martial arts. Regardless of the promotion you're in, you want to see that your school is the best school. And the only way to say that your school is the best school is not through the narrative of saying that, okay, because of my logo, because of the UFC logo, I'm bringing out the narrative that all the UFC champion, because they're in the UFC, are the baddest men on the planet, or the best fighters that there is in all of the different promotions that they're out there, right? The martial art spirit is that you have to prove yourself, and you want to show that your school is the best against the other school by measuring your fighting skills against the other schools, not by having the biggest mouth between all of these different schools. This is totally a different. This is a different story, right? And in the meantime, obviously they're making money out of it. So bullying the UFC, that's what the UFC does. That's the business of the UFC, right? They run a narrative. If somebody is against that narrative, they go after that guy and try to cancel him, basically, and try to put him out of business. That's what they did. That's what they're trying to do with Robin Black, and that's what they did with Francis Ngannou, trashing him, calling him greedy, saying that he's hard to deal with, that sending false narrative like Hunter Campbell went like 70 or I don't know how many fights, that they trying to make a deal for 3 years with that guy. Yeah, of course you try to make a deal where the deal that suits you, that locks the guy, that put the guy under your chokehold, under your control, right? But this guy is he's a guy that has how can you say, principle, and that is not that didn't want to be bought, right? And you didn't want to understand that from Robin Black. You know that Robin Black makes sense in what he's saying, and that's why right now you're going after him, right? Because he expressed totally 100% on the target what the UFC is actually doing, right? And how these little followers that want the UFC to think for them, right, are repeating all of the UFC narrative without even thinking that at the end of the day, they are the one that are giving all that money and that are making this business what it is today, and that are like giving Dana White example the money to buy all these fancy cars, all these big houses and all that. So, and regardless on which side of the border they are, right? They might be PFL, they might be UFC, they might be pro John Bones, they might be pro Francis Ngannou. We don't care about that. At the end of the day, the only thing that we want is to have that fight, right? And so far, from what I understand, the PFL is the only promotion right now between the two promotions that is ready to give the people what they want, which is a co-promotion fight with Francis Ngannou against John Jones, which is the fight that everyone wants to see. And let me tell you that if it's not greed, if it's not trying to protect the bag, right, that the UFC is playing now, try to keep what they have, but it's bound to fail at one point, right? If it's not to protect that, tell me what it is. What is preventing the UFC from having that fight? Because at the end of the day, people, that's the fight that we want. And actually, we can have the fight. People are trying to, like Dana White is trying to make it so that Francis Ngannou is scared and all that stuff, right? Or trying to say that, oh, now he's in another promotion, so that fight can never take place. That's bunch of bullshit. That's bull. That fight can happen even if those two guys are in different promotion, right? We just as fan just have to demand it. We as fan have to stand up, right? We as fan has to to tell all of these different promotion, and especially the UFC, to stop taking us for fools, to stop taking us for granted. Obviously, and at the end of the day, when you think about it, right, the more the more competition between the different companies, right, I mean, the better it is for the sport, the better it is for the athlete, the better it is for the fans. I mean, everybody's winning in that case. Can you imagine, right? This is when we're going to have real unification belts. This is when we're going to have what the hell is Dana White talking about when he's talking about unification belts, right? Inside the same company. I mean, a lot of people were saying that like for ages, right? We can have actually real unification belt between PFL, between UFC, between maybe another company that has some credibility. We can have real unification fights, right? And then there will be no concern and no gray zone between who's got the best fighter in what division. That would be interesting. And guys, that would be historical. But you need to have vision to do that. And you need to stop protecting a bag that in any way you're going to lose. Maybe Dana White right now is saying, okay, this is not happening on my watch. On my watch, this is not going to happen, but it is bound to happen. Some people have small and nearsighted vision, and I believe that this is what Dana White has: greed and nearsighted vision, right? And the lust for control and power, right? This is what he has, but it's bound to fail if us as fans gets together, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. So we have to get together and make these guys understand that the guys that are controlling the business here, the guys that are making that business run, it's not them, it's us. Because we are giving a little money where we're working like a job, whatever, from 8 to 5, right? Saving our money every day to buy those pay-per-view, to go in the arena, buy the seats, buy the merchandising and all that stuff to make those guys rich. Because don't get it twisted. These guys are Betty Fool. These guys are Betty Fool. So guys, when I'm listening and when I'm hearing stuff like this, right, what Dana White is trying to do to this guy, who actually only trying to give his opinion. You can agree, you can disagree, right, or you can agree to disagree, but at least don't try to say that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This is exactly what I've been kicking out since all this story started with Francis Ngannou. That's exactly what I've been talking about. A lot of people are thinking about that. A lot of people are thinking about that, guys. A lot of people think the same. So this is my take on that. So please, guys, let me know what you think about it, right? And don't forget, I mean, that shit would be historical, and that would make like millions. And of course, Dana White is upset because he knows who fumbled the bag. He knows who did fumble the bag. And who did fumble the bag? Well, it's him, because he knew that a fight with John Jones and Francis Ngannou would have brought so much money, right? It would have brought so much money. And on top of that, he could have actually been under the UFC umbrella at one point. But because of that greed and that lust for power, he let it slip away. And now Francis Ngannou is in another organization trying to tell us, and he's trying to tell us that, oh yeah, but he's not the, nah, that's all a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, I mean, yes, the UFC has a new champion, but they lost the baddest man on the planet, point blank. That's it. That's what we're talking about here, guys. So yeah, give me your comments down here. You see how these guys got a good life? Do they seem like they worry about us? Nah, they don't worry about us. They're just living the good life with the money we're providing them when we're going to the event, or we're buying the event, or we're buying the merchandising, right? So guys, as fans, get your head out of your AO and start making a stand, start making a statement, right? And if you have to cancel Dana White and the UFC, if you have to boycott Dana White and the UFC, well, so be it, so that we can have the fights that we want, and that we can hold him accountable for the promises that he made when he said that he wants to give people the fight that they deserve, that they want, right? We know that the PFL is is putting his feet where his mouth is by proposing that there's that co-promotion, but crickets from the UFC who are protecting that bag, and us as fans are being taken for granted, are being taken hostage by the UFC, so that we at the end of the day might not see this historical, not only the one of the greatest fight in the last 10 years, but an historical event that could happen between two promotion, and that would bring so much visibility to MMA, that would give so much visibility to those athletes, right? And that would definitely change the landscape of MMA. That's it. That's all I have to say here. Now I'm just going to leave you again with a smart and wisdom word of Robin Black, right? Let's go.
Francis Ngannou's the scariest UFC heavyweight champion ever, and now he fights for the PFL. This is a big deal for Francis, for the PFL, and for every athlete in the fight business. Bink. Yeah, today the PFL gave Francis the money and the influence he deserves when the UFC would not. Truth is, the UFC's brand first model doesn't depend on having the best fighters, only the best marketing. It is not easy to control a fighter like Francis. It's way easier to spend the money and control the messaging instead. Just look in the comments, how many people are amplifying the UFC's words, just start your own promotion if you don't like it, he's afraid to fight John Jones, or whatever. These reactions prove their corporate theory that marketing spend is more important than fighter pay. They don't need the best fighters if they can convince enough of us to automatically think they're the best because of a logo. This model works for McDonald's and for Red Bull and for Facebook, and it's working for the UFC too. No hate. Like they like to say, it's their business, they can run it how they want. PFL cannot outspend the UFC in marketing, but they can give fighters like Francis the money and the influence and power they deserve.
And that's
they
what
can find the best,
do.
pay them the best,
That's what
and
they're trying to do
prioritize
right now.
athletes in action over hype and promotion. They can make fighting about fighting. Maybe it'll work. Only time will tell. My friends, martial arts can be about so much more than sizzle and corporate power. It can be about emotion, art, and inspiration as well. Martial arts can teach us about life. Congrats, Francis. Congrats, PFL. And thank you for trying to create change.
Thank you, guys. So leave your comments at the bottom. I'm really eager to see what you think about this, right? And definitely I've been looking into and I've been answering each of your comments here. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. All right, guys. Talk to you and see you guys later. Bye.